Hello, ladies and gentlemen, fine people of the internet. It is Brian or Jedah with Mana Beast doing an updated deck profile on my Blue Ginyu. However, you may notice this is a little bit different right from the get-go from the past two deck profiles, the 4.0, which was the ARG 18th place, and the 4.1. As you'll notice, we're no longer using Tag Team, and for very good reasons. So why did I make the switch back to Blue Protective? Well, there have been some additions in set 5 to the card pool of Blue, first of all, that I think have made Tag Team obsolete. And there have been some additions as far as MPs and meta decks you're going to face that I think makes Blue Protective a superior Blue style in the current meta with Ginyu. I would have argued Tag Team in previous set 4, but with set 5 and how I built this deck, the Protective Mastery works so much better for me, and I will go into a little bit more detail about why I like the Blue Protective Mastery above Captain Ginyu in Tag Team. Now, I'm not going to describe really Ginyu's powers or the Blue Protective Mastery. We know what they do. Opponent has to have 6 anger with the Blue Protective Mastery, and then you can discard a physical to guard an energy, or an energy to guard a physical, and raise or lower an anger by 1. What I will be doing, however, is a very intensive, detailed description of why I'm running each card. I know a lot of you have talked to me and wanted more detailed deck profiles. So if you're just looking for the deck profile itself, you just want to have the cards, go down to the description, go look at it, you'll get the basic deck profile and you can build it. However, if you want a detailed description of why I am running what I am and why I run it in the ratios, watch this video and I'm going to go through a detailed explanation of why I run it all. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on. I won't explain Captain Ginyu. We know what he does. He's a beastie deck to run with allies. So first of all, let's just go here into the basics. I'm actually going to start up here with our setups. We are going to run 1 Blue Battle Readiness. Still a great card. Power, search your life deck for an ally, place it into play at 3 stages above 0. Search your discard pile for an ally and place it into play at 3 stages above 0. I still think this is a great card at 1 to tech in to get us early ally advantage. If we hit this setup, it's really nice on a turn 2 or 3, attacking with Ginyu, and if we've had an ally discarded, to be able to get 3 allies out onto the field in 1 turn. Really super powerful us to get, and actually a lot of times what I will do is, if I know I'm going up against a setup heavy deck, I'm going against a black deck, or a red deck that may have setups, the last ally I will pop out is Nappa. So on that turn, I'll have 3 allies, one of them being Nappa, and I'm neutering their game while still gaining myself advantage. So I run that at 1. Next card that should be in most villain decks, if not all, is Villainous Visage, or Visage, however you want to say it. Villains only, limit 1 per deck, banish after use. Instant power, use after you take damage from an attack. Your opponent destroys the top X cards of his life deck. X equals twice the amount of damage that attack dealt. Still a super valuable card for me. The greatest thing about it is, again, you do not always have to hit it on those ideal turns. You don't have to hit it on the big damage attacks. A lot of my attacks, again, I will mill usually around 8 to 10 cards from my opponent's deck. I will take the 4 damage attack. I will take the 5 damage attack. I've even allowed myself to be critted so that I can pop this setup and pull off a 1/6 of your deck just like that. It's really powerful because, again, goes along with the idea of you're not going to be able to endurance it, and as a bonus, it really gives your opponent some pause to think about what they're doing. Going against the Black Krillin deck, they're going to try to auto choke you. Going against the Destructo Disc and Sinister Choke, a lot of cards are going to do pretty good damage that are unpreventable. This makes your opponent think about it. Do I really want to mill 10 cards from the top of my life deck? So good threat overall, and great to even mill at the low levels. And at the high levels, of course, if you get hit by huge damage, this card just goes off. And I've seen some people take 10 damage, 9 damage, 8 damage, and then have them mill 18 to 20 cards. So in the unideal situations, it's great. And in the ideal situations, it's nuts. We are going to run 1 Blue Dominance. I had ran it at 2 in other builds, but I believe 1 is good. Cannot win by MPPV. If you use this card, banish after use power, use when entering combat, advance or lower your MP to level 2, choose 2 drills from your discard pile, and place them into play. I've used this in both fashions, from getting to level 1 to 2 quickly if I'm having issues, or if I'm at level 3 and would like an extra attack. The nice thing about this is I have had turns where I've had a lot of allies in the discard pile and not a lot of ways to get them back. So at level 3, I'll pop this in, get 2 key drills into play, and then when I go into combat, sometimes I've even been wall breakered, which is hilarious because I'll allow myself to be wall breakered. I don't necessarily care to get off of it, but I'll pop back down to 2, I'll have an attack on board, and start getting allies out of the discard pile. So even without wall breaker as well, again, if I anger back up, I've just given myself 1 extra attack. So a lot of flexibility getting from 1 to 2 or from 3 to 2 makes this card amazing. I would love to run it at 2. I don't have the room currently, but at 1, it served me fairly well. And then of course we are going to run 2 Visiting the Past. This card is I don't know what to say about this card that I haven't already said. I don't know how much I can extol the virtues of Visiting the Past. There are very few decks that I believe don't need it, and in Blue Protective, I believe this card is probably the most viable it can be in any deck, as your discard pile is full of amazing attacks and blocks to use. Great against aggro decks, great against going into combat with maybe a non-ideal hand that you've got a setup you don't want, but you want to go ahead and go into combat. Again, great threat to have on board. Makes your opponent question whether or not they want to go into combat on you. They always have to have the ideal hand, and if they don't, you're going to find an answer to either spear them, to either block them, or to put out some more damage to them. So 2 of these, gotta have them. Got to have them. All right, so let's go on to the drills. We're going to run Blue Lifting Drill. If this card is discarded from your hand by a card effect, you may place it into play. So this really works in well with black. You go against the Black Mastery, the Devious. They're going to make you discard a card. Great, you discard this card and place it into play. Your attacks deal +1 life card of damage. Whenever one of your attacks is stopped, lower your opponent's anger level by 1. Key against Namekian matchups. Super key against Namekian matchups. Some red matchups that are going to try to anger up through blocks, even against other blue decks. You punish the defensive decks, and that's what's key. Not only does it do the +1 life card, so your Ginyu level 1 does 5 life cards on its own attack, it also allows you to neuter those decks that are going to try to build a wall and block. So even decks that are built to neuter aggro decks, if they're going to have MPPV as one of their conditions, this neuters that as well. So I still run it because I think it's a phenomenal card for that very reason. We're going to run a Blue Positioning Drill. Whenever you stop an attack, place a styled card from your discard pile on top of your life deck. This card with blue works extremely well. It helps to set your deck back up for the next turn. I've had a lot of times where I've gone into combat and I have a really defensive hand. I'll set up my next attack. So opponent goes in on me, they start to attack. I have a lot of blocks, and I'll set up my next turn almost like a Dragon Ball 7. It's kind of like a mini Dragon Ball 7 at times, because with other cards we run, which I'll show you later, you can stack up some massive advantage. I've had turns where I've stacked 8 to 9 cards on top of my deck from one combat and gained a huge amount of deck, and also set up the next 2 to 3 turns so that I can get into combat effectively and then also defend myself as well. So all in all, amazing card. We are going to run 1 Blue Biting Drill. Your attacks deal +2 power stages of damage. When one of your card effects lowers your opponent's anger, and his anger is already 0, he destroys the top card of his life deck. Again, overall great utility, adding +2 stages to all my attacks. With other allies on the field, we're going to talk about later, that ups the modifiers even more, does more stage damage, so our energy attacks are always doing energy X +2 stages. So even the small attacks are going to do stage damage to our opponents, really hurt them and bring them down, especially the energy beats decks like Yamcha and Krillin that we want to try to neuter throughout the matchup. And then 1 Blue Mental Drill, because Endurance 2 is good, and I'd love to see your hand. Yeah, show me your hand. Okay, great. I get to see what you have. I get to see your hand. I have no better thing to say about seeing your opponent's hand than seeing their hand, so run that as well. Okay, let's get in here to the events. We're going to run 1 Time is a Warrior's Tool, because time. Stop it. No more time. That's all I have to say. Morris Day and the time is what I have to say about that. We are going to run one Captain Ginyu's body switch. We run this as, well, I'd say a couple reasons. I still run it and tech it at 1. If we're on level 1 or we're having issues getting anger up, a lot of times we'll go up against other defensive decks, possibly red ruthless decks that may pop us down in anger with physical attacks, another blue protective deck, a black control deck, and we want to be able to get up. Plus, not only that, but it's advantageous when we are at level 1 Ginyu, and let's just say we have 4 to 5 allies out, and we're not going to be fetching any more from the life deck, and we have some in the discard pile. It gives you an extra attack as you attack with your Ginyu, pull your power stages down all the way, then after you've attacked with them, block the next action, use this, go all the way up to level 2, and now you've got another attack on board to be able to throw, and then hopefully with your allies on board, get yourself up to level 3 and just keep the beating going. So we run it at 1. We are going to run 2 Villainous Energy Sphere because spheres are spheres, baby. Stopping those events is super important, especially against the black matchup. There's so many key events going against what we currently see in the meta. There are a lot of amazing events that we want to stop, and we're going to run it at 2. Now, because we're running that at 2, I'm only running 2 stare down. I have found in my testing that 3 has just become too cloggy. I have 2 spheres and I have 2 stare downs. As far as how I'm going to be neutering my opponent's advantage in their hand and stopping events, I've got 4 cards that do that. 3 stare downs a lot of times was so cloggy that I'm glad I can see your hand and discard a card out of it. But having mental drill along with the spheres neuters my opponent enough, and I just couldn't find the space to put a 3rd one in, so I run it at 2. And then for our last event, we're going to run 3 Blue Shifting Maneuver. Great card, still a staple even from back in the day. Banish after use Endurance 2, good endurance power, stops a physical or energy attack. If your current anger level is 3 or higher, discard this card after use instead. Which a lot of times in the Ginyu matchup, we are at 3 anger on level 1 or 2, and it's fairly consistent. I'd say 60% of the time this goes in the discard pile. And then we're talking about positioning drill. We're able to stack cards back on top. If this does in fact go into our discard pile instead, we've got more endurance and another Omni block for another time. All right, let's go in here into allies. Of course, we're gonna run Guldo the dildo. He says a stop attack, stops a physical or energy attack. Your attack deal +2 stages and +2 life card of damage this combat. Again, good as he ever was. Of course, you know, there's the neuter from bygone months ago, but I still run him because, again, when you're down on energy stages and you need that key block, he's really key against the physical beats decks, and then you're able to put back some damage on your opponent. We run Nappa know-how because this card in this meta is so broke. Roshi going against black setup decks, going against red decks, going against blue decks, going against any deck, in fact, just even neutering Visiting the Past. Let's not even talk about style, folks, okay? Let's just talk about stopping your opponent from using their Visiting the Past. Amazing. Setups can't be used. I mean, what more do I need to say? Nappa, you the best. You the best. We are going to run Reccome, of course. Power, physical attack, damage, add stages, hit. You may have your MP pay 2 stages to draw the bottom card of your discard pile. Again, this just extends the combo for damage. If you're at level 3 and you're adding 2 life cards to it, you're doing the stages along with the life cards, and if you hit, you draw the bottom card of your discard pile to gain you more hand advantage. What can I say? Then we've got Jeice. Power, energy, attack costing 2 stages, damage 5 life cards, raise a player's anger 1 level. You know, we love it. Get some damage in, raise some anger, usually yours, and just continue the beatings. We are going to run Burter. Of course, he is our stage damage modifier, and that's why I talked about with blue biting drill. We have this biting drill on the field. You're talking about +4 stages to every attack you throw, which after a while gets painful, especially when they're drained of all their stages and you're doing an attack that may do like 3 or 4 life cards. Well, you add on the 4 stages, that's 8 total. So just increases the damage output and just adds those modifiers like crazy. We are going to run Frieza still. Life card damage from attacks is banished. Yes, this does mean ours. However, the great thing about it is we go against a lot of decks like Namekian, who wants to rejuve all the time. Red Ruthless, who would love to get cards off the top of their discard pile. A lot of times in those matchups, we want to get rid of their discard pile. This also does, in a way, oddly enough, work to our advantage against the Cell matchup. Because when we go up against Cell, his main avenue against us from going to 3 to 4 is banishing cards out of our discard pile. And if he can't do that, then his little magic game doesn't work. So a lot of times, if you don't have a big discard pile and you've been putting cards back up with Biting Drill, you can, pardon me, not Biting Drill, with Positioning Drill, you're able to limit their advantage. Now, that's a very situational, it doesn't happen a lot, but it is a viable strategy against Cell. And then my newest addition is Android 17, which I'm telling you, this guy's put in a lot of work. When this card comes and enters play, choose a card with Android in the title from your discard pile and rejuvenate it. We don't really use it for that, we don't really care. The other effect is power, physical attack, damage, at plus life cards. X equals the number of setups in play. Right now, we run 5 setups ourselves, but I'm telling you, against every other deck you're gonna go, you're gonna have Visiting the Past, you're gonna have setups galore in black, Roshi, Yamcha, and the best part about it is he actually works in tandem with Nappa, because Nappa says, look, you can't use your setup, so maybe you've got a Blue Battle Readiness or Visiting the Past on board. Those setups are dead for all intents and purposes. This guy says, well, they're dead to use, but I can still use them for modifiers. So I've gone against decks where between the two of us, we might have 5 or 6 setups in play. At plus X life cards, can we get an amen to just doing naturally 5 life cards? And of course, we get modifiers with this. So now we're doing our stage damage. Now we're doing our Ginyu level 3 damage. You get Biting Drill, you get Lifting Drill here with 5 setups. You're already doing 6 life cards plus the 2 from Ginyu level 3, 8 life cards. I mean, the damage output this gets late game is absolutely nuts. So even in non-ideal situations with 1 or 2 setups, it's still another attack and it keeps the pressure on our opponent. So this card, absolutely love. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to physicals here. Starting off with 1 Wall Breaker. Of course, we know what it does. Physical attack damage at +1 stages, but do we really care about the damage? No. Attached to your opponent's MP, while attached to your opponent, cannot gain anger. Banish this card when your opponent deals critical damage. Now, I've heard arguments for this card over and over and over again, and I will just say this. I'm not going to talk about the ideal situations. I'm not going to talk the best of the best. If I can stop a red, a Namekian, a black deck, a blue deck, or a Saiyan deck from leveling up or gaining advantage due to anger for 1 turn, this card has paid for itself off the bat, okay? I have had combats where a Namekian player would have gained anger from right throw. 3 anger. I neuter 3 anger with 1 card. Outside of combat in black decks, can we talk about Roshi and Yamcha? Anytime they discard those precious, lovely out of combat cards that allow them to gain 2 anger, this says no. So the whole slime gaining anger, this prevents that as well. In the most ideal situations where you're talking about multiple turns, this card, again, works and pays for itself. So I tech it in at 1. I am blue protective. I do have options to gain and control anger through my mastery and cards, but I still think it's a viable card to tech in. We are gonna run 2 blue slash. We have cut this down from 3, which it was at previously, because there was just too much good stuff to put in from set 5 and the changes I made with the blue protective mastery. Endurance 1, physical attack damage 1, life card, lower your opponent's anger 1. So all in all, anger control, good endurance. The life card isn't that great. However, the hit, your opponent destroys the top X cards of his life deck. X equals 6 minus his current anger level. We control anger like nobody's business. And when your opponent is either at low levels or they freshly leveled, throw this at them. This by itself is technically doing 7 life cards of unpreventable damage. Now you don't get any bonuses like a crit, but just 7 cards off the top of their deck, can't do anything about it, 14 total. Pretty amazing, almost a fourth of their deck gone. The other thing about it is too, it is a mechanic we use to bait out guards for physicals, because we do have Reccome in here. We do have the Android 17 we just talked about. So again, baiting out a guard is great for us. And then we can attach modifiers too. So we get the stages, getting the Ginyu 3, again, works with modifiers perfectly well and outputs some good damage. We are down to 2 blue head knocks, endurance 2, physical attack damage, 5 life cards, lower your opponent's anger to 0. I put this down to 2 to include wall breaker. So taking out a 3rd blue head knock helps us to allow for anger control while still running cards like wall breaker to get those turn after turn anger controls. You'll also notice that I'm starting to run 2 of a lot of these cards. This is to go against the black matchup. Black matchups are prevalent in the meta, from Krillin to Roshi to Yamcha, whoever you want to name. Black and Black Devious or Perceptive, whichever one you're going to use, is prevalent in the meta, and running 2 of cards really neuters their advantage. So when they do their searching techniques, they get less value. Okay, so if I've already used one of these and they try to search for it, because this is a staple card in blue, and more than likely they're going to search for it, well, I just neutered their advantage. Worst case scenario, they only get 2. So I'm neutering 1 extra card they could have gotten. They don't get as much value out of cards, and it also kind of messes with their ratios. So 2 of those. New card from the new set that I absolutely love is 2 blue slide. Physical attack, banish the top 3 cards of your opponent's discard pile. So it's like a odd, devastating blow in the sense of you just get to banish the top 3, you don't get to select it. Damage at +3 life cards, so really good damage output, but the other one is hit. Your opponent cannot play non-style cards this combat. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this against Krillin with Destructo Disc, if they don't have a physical block, and we already talked about blue slash, and that's why the blue slash blue slide combo is really fun, because you can almost choose how you want them to block. If you know what they've got, or you've got a mental drill, or it's an unideal combat for them, if you know they don't have the guard for one of these, and maybe they do, bait them out, throw one or the other. If you're trying to do more damage to them, you bait them out with blue slide. But if you're trying to actually get them to stop doing their non-style, let's say they got a spear and a time, or let's just say they have a spear, not a time, pardon me, like in Krillin, they got a spear and a Destructo Disc. If they can't block this, you've neutered their spirit and you've neutered their Destructo Disc for a turn, which is amazing, absolutely amazing. So this card here has helped win me a lot of games just because of the fact that it's a physical card that does do damage, but its effect for the hit is well worth it, well worth it. Well, I know we talked about 2 of cards, but I'm sorry, I gotta run this at 3 because I have to. Blue Betrayal, it's Blue Betrayal. For all intents and purposes, it might as well be an event, except it would be spiritable, so I'll take the physical combat. Damage at stages, not a great damage output, but of course banishes opponent's setup, drill, or ally in play. A great control card, and once we get the damage modifiers with allies in Ginyu 3, it can start doing something. But again, this is all for control, all for stopping our opponent's advantage. And then we are going to run 3 blue round throw. Now I know this may throw some people off, but blue protective, the whole idea behind the mastery is great. Yeah, you can discard a physical to guard energy. I have always personally loved these dual cards. These cards that copy your mastery in essence, because we have flexibility. So you may play this card to stop an energy attack instead of as an attack. Physical attack, damage at +5 stages. So the damage output of this is actually really good. And then lower your opponent's anger 1 level. Now this also will lower your opponent's anger 1 level if you play it to stop an energy attack. This flexibility is why I love this card. If I'm going against an aggro match and they're throwing a lot of energies, I don't have to use my mastery. Let's say I've got another physical attack. I've got a blue betrayal and they've got 2 or 3 energy attacks they're gonna throw at me. I'm going against the TN. I certainly don't want to get hit by that. So guess what? This gives me the flexibility of going against the TN, while at the same time, if I need to go more aggro, it's an at +5, it lowers angers, and it continues my combat string. So that's why I run it at 3. And we don't run any physical blocks as far as from a physical blocker's perspective, although we do run 1, but I'll tell you about it later. Let's talk about the energy blocks here. We're gonna run 3 blue narrow escape. Still one of my favorite energy blocks in the game, super powerful. Banish after use, endurance 3, stops an energy attack. Choose 2 energy combat cards in your discard pile and place them on top of your life deck. This helps us to recur our overpowering attacks. This helps us to recur blocks. And they don't have to be styled. So again, Overpowering Attack will work. The other attacks we're gonna talk about here later will also work. All in all, super good card, Endurance 3. And then my favorite, having Positioning Drill, I get to stack 3 cards on top. 2 energy combat cards, and then 1 card of my choice that's styled. So I essentially, with 1 card and a drill on board, set up my next hand. Phenomenal. So that's why I run it at 3. And one of the new cards that I run at 3 and absolutely love is Blue Energy Shield. Stops an energy attack. You may set your MP's power level to 0. Your allies cannot be discarded by critical damage effects this combat. I used to run Enhanced Reflexes for the Krillin matchup, okay? Because Krillin matchup, it's all about stopping that Destructo Disc and not allowing them to do damage. However, after you stop the Destructo Disc, you still have to fear crits from his discarding ability or anything else he's gonna run to the deck. That's why I run this card, because even if he throws Destructo Disc at me, not only can I lower my MP's power level to 0, so I activate all my allies, boom, bonus, okay? Then I can't have my allies discarded by critical damage effect. So I can play this card and fail to block the attack. The attack will still go through. However, the other effect, my allies cannot be discarded by critical damage effects this combat, stops the Destructo Disc crit from critting away my allies, and stops Krillin's discard ability from critting away my allies. Also against Red or Red Yamcha especially, they throw out that first energy attack. Awesome. You throw Red Shoulder Grab after that, I don't really care. You're not gonna crit away any of my allies. You can crit my anger away, you can crit, I don't have any balls, so the only thing you're gonna do is crit anger. And if I don't have anger, it really becomes a moot point then, and you neuter a seriously big swing turn that could have gotten rid of 2 to 3 to 4 allies. So that's why I run this at 3. And again, this is why I also am not running the Blue Tag Team Mastery, because this in a way mimics that idea of not being able to discard the only ally on board, except it works for all your allies for the turn that they block, and you throw this at them to stop their energy attack. So again, this one card, along with one other I'll show here in a bit, is why I don't run Tag Team. Going on to the actual attacks, we're gonna run 1 Blue Terror. You know how it goes. Energy attack 2 stages, damage 3 life cards. Search your life deck for a non-Dragon Ball card and place it into your hand. Card advantage, cherry picking the cards, getting at that key wall breaker, finding the answer, getting the block. What can I say, boys and girls? It's good. We are going to run 2 Neck Beam. This card is discarded from your hand by a card effect. Your MP gains 4 stages. Now that in itself for Ginyu, ladies and gentlemen, is magic. Absolute magic, because I'll go against some physical matchups where I might not have any allies or maybe 1 or 2 allies on board, and I will hold on to this card and allow them to get me down in stages. I will wait for the key moment where I'm maybe at 1, or especially if I'm at 0 stages. The best part about this is, and I've had this happen a lot where I'm at 0 stages, they're a physical beats deck like say a Turtles, and they're gonna go up against me. I discard this to go ahead and guard their physical attack. Number 1, I gain my 4 stages. Ginyu's level 1 attack costs 3 stages. So whatever ally I bring out is instantly activated after that. So a lot of times I'll discard that, guard to stop their physical attack, gain the 4 stages, next attack, throw my attack, put out a Guldo. I got another blocker on board. Again, stops the damage and soaks it up. Endurance 1, which is also good, but the other great ability of this card is energy attack costing 2 stages, damage 4 life cards, which we don't care about, hit, raise or lower your opponent's MP 1 personality level at the end of combat. Cell, Saiyandex, and especially Black Promo Krillin. Can't tell you the number of times I played this card against the Black Promo Krillin, who was on level 1 with the smoothness drill and everything in the world out there to destroy my butt, and I hit him with it. I pop him up to level 2, his whole game plan is destroyed. His abilities for discarding and doing crit effects are out the window, and at that point, once I get him to level 2, I pretty much have the game in the bag. So that's the key about it. Not only de-leveling, but leveling our lovely Promo Krillin up to 2. We are gonna run 2 Blue Draining Blast. Even though we do run the energy attack or the energy block that allows us to lower, a lot of times, not only do we wanna lower Ginyu, but we're gonna have some allies with unused stages. Nappa, Frieza, Burter is another key one. We don't necessarily have to have it high stages. So when you've got your Nappa all the way to 10 and you've thrown out 2 to 3 attacks, throwing this attack out, and even at full power, doing 9 life cards of damage is pretty insane. So that's why I run that at 2. We are also still running 2 blinding energy moves. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna tell you, I have been continued to be impressed by this card, even in set 5. And Ginyu is a aggro deck, has the ability to be an aggro deck, but let me tell you, I have had so many combats where it's been the last hurrah, and I actually had a game the other day where I was going up against a blue protective Roshi, and it was a really close matchup. I had to kind of switch my strategy up, but they had 3 cards left, and they were gonna have a pretty good combat on me. And it ended up that I searched this out, because this isn't banished after use. I searched this out with Visiting the Past, put it into my hand, and had a block to stop them from their first attack. Because I think what they're gonna try to do is do some damage to me to make it either unpreventable or get up on me. This card saved my butt, because as it says here, limit 2 per deck. You must banish the top 2 cards of your life deck to play this card. Energy attack, damage 3 life cards. Again, don't really care about that. At the beginning of the next action, this combat, in combat. So let me tell you, once I ended combat here, they had 3 cards left in their life deck. I banished the top 2, ended combat. It went to my turn. I drew my 3 cards, instantly went into combat, and they lost. This also is great, and my favorite trolling move of the game is to go into combat with like a 3, even a 3-hand, or I could say you could even go on a 4-card combat, but especially on 3-card combats, it's really interesting to watch your opponent, because a lot of times in a 3-card combat, they're going to assume you have the nuts. They're going to assume you maybe have a blue terror, you have an overpowering attack, whatever you're doing in Ginyu, you are going into combat. You're so confident in this 3-card hand. A lot of times they will waste a Visiting the Past and draw a sphere or draw something, a time, whatever it is. And what you do is you play this card, you got 2 cards left in hand, you waste all 5 of their cards, well, 4 of their cards, along with the Visiting the Past. So if we're talking about a card advantage here, in the end, you're gonna ditch 1 card. So you've lost 1 card and then 2 from the top of your deck, so that's 3. But your opponent wasted a very valuable Visiting the Past along with 4 cards. So we're talking about card advantage here, 3 to what ends up being, let's just say a 5, possibly 6, if you're going against other decks, it's pretty amazing. So that's why we run this at 2. It's still good even in aggro decks. All right, now new set 5 card, and one of the reasons I don't run tag team is Blue Clash. So amazing. Energy attack costing 1 stage. Damage from this attack cannot be prevented, so almost like a miniature Sinister Choke, except it can be technically blocked. If your opponent banished an ally in his last action in this combat, this attack deals plus 4 life cards of damage. So a total of 8 life cards if they banished your ally, which a lot of decks are doing it these days. You're going against another blue deck that has Betrayal. You get them to banish your allies. The best part about it is, great, you banish my allies. Well, this is going to do 8 life cards of damage. And if you can't block it, it's unpreventable. It's just 8 life cards. And then hit, search your left deck or banish zone for an ally and place it into play, and play it. So what I like about this here, even if they didn't banish an ally in the last action, it's 4 life cards, and if you have any modifiers, of course it stacks with it. And then if I hit, I get an ally out of my banish zone. That to me is even better than Tag Team Master. I'm not just putting it at the bottom of my deck. If I hit you with this energy attack, which I do a lot of energies in this deck, along with Ginyu's, Jeice, I'll throw this as the last string. That ally you banish, that Nappa, right? The Jeice, the Burter, whatever key card, the Guldo, I get it back, which is super key for me. And it's even better because I skipped the life deck. I don't have to worry about getting it back out. It just comes back out. So super amazing card, and why I run it at 3, and I've said bye-bye to Tag Team. And we're Ginyu, we gotta run the 3 overpowering attacks because we're Ginyu, and we're getting allies. What else do I need to say? Energy attack costing 2 stages, damage 5 life cards, search your life deck, or discard pile for an ally and place it into play at 5 stages above 0. This is one of our wonderful stackable cards with blue narrow escape, as is blinding energy move. Even though it's not styled, it can still be stacked. Now I said I was not running any physical blocks in the physical combat category, but I am running 1 in the energy combat category. Again, we talked about blue round throw, and my personal philosophy and why I love the blue mastery, and especially why I love this card, is flexibility. This is just a vanilla 2 stages, 5 life cards of damage, but you may play this card to stop a physical attack instead of as an attack. So for me, again, I have flexibility. If I'm going against the physical beats deck and I get this into my hand, it's great. Or if I need to go on the offensive, it's great as well. To me, I would rather have this than a blue guard. And you'll notice there is no blue guard to be seen. That's because this is more of a toolbox deck in which I'm trying to be flexible. I can be aggro, but at the same time, I can be defensive if I need to. And that there is the deck profile. And if you'll notice, I know shocking, there are no digs. No, I'll dig your graves. I like the card. It's a great card, good for damage output. But the way I have built this deck is for consistent damage turn after turn after turn. I'm not necessarily here to get the big Dougie turn to just throw a ton of attacks at you. I have flexibility in this. I want to chip your damage away. I want to slowly erode what you have. And I may have, of course, those big combats where I have big turns and I can hit you for a lot, but I don't run it. I don't run it. I love the card, but the way I'm running my deck, I ended up taking it out because I looked at the damage output I did, and along with my milling effects, I do 5 to 6 damage naturally through a lot of this, and then stage damage. So to me, I'm not too hurt by the endurance being used, and the way I chip away is not trying to do 10, 12, 30 life cards of damage. I'm trying to chip you away little by little. So even though I know it would be great to have in here, I didn't have the room and I took it out, and I have to say I haven't missed it. So anyway, this is my deck profile. I went through some more details. I hope you enjoyed it. Of course, comment and say what you would change, what you would put in the deck, what you prefer, any changes that you would do, something I may have missed that you put into your deck. I'm always interested to know, always interested in how to continue to do better. This deck has performed extremely well for me over the past month and a half that I've been working on it and testing it. Very much enjoyed it, and I'm glad to have him back in Blue Protective. The other bonus of this mastery is, guess what? Cell, you have 5 anger. You gain 5 anger from your draining attack. You don't gain 6. So what I'll do with cell matchups is a lot of times I'll just keep him down in anger. I'll keep him at that 0 anger mark, and I will allow them to try to get back up. And then I'll throw a head knock, and I'll lower back down to 0. Or I'll have a wall breaker on them. And to me, 6 anger in this meta is extremely hard to get to in the Mechian matchup and then the cell matchup. So that's why another reason I went back to Blue Protective is because this mastery neuters cell big time. So it completely hurts his turn. So I've had turns where he gets out his draining attack and he gets to the 5 anger and I just go head knock. Okay, head knock, yeah, go back down to 0. Because you don't auto level. Because a lot of Cell's decks are built for auto level. They go, oh, I'm gonna get to 5 anger. With Blue Protective, you say, no, you're not. You now have to think about 6 anger instead of 5, which is a huge difference. So anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Dragon Ball Z.